What if there was a way to bring in over $5,100 every single month of net cash flow? That's after all your expenses, all your set aside for maintenance, everything. That's the money you're putting in your pocket on a monthly basis just from one relatively low cost rental property. That's exactly what Michael is doing, who's from my First Vacation Rental Investment Blueprint program. And he's also doing it with almost no money out of pocket. So I'm gonna explain to you how he's doing that. I'm gonna show you the details of this amazing deal because he's doing this today. He just got it under contract. So he'll be, getting it set up and listed over the next several months, but he's doing it with interest rates the way they are today, with the prices of real estate the way they are today, in an environment where a lot of people say that you can't find cash flow. So this type of deal fires me up, and I'm super excited to share the details with you today. I'm Kirby Atwell, and I went from living paycheck to paycheck and working a corporate job and having a few long-term rentals that didn't really produce much cash flow to now, with the launch of our latest short-term rental, we're about to be up to 39 short-term rental listings that we own. And they're all really high cash flowing short-term rentals that have really changed my family's financial picture going forward. And my wife and I were able to leave our full-time jobs about 4 years ago as a result of this strategy. So now I work with people to help them implement this strategy and create significant cash flow in their life from this really specific niche style short-term rental that I'm about to share with you today. So if that sounds interesting to you and you'd like to work with me in the program, you can set up a call with me at the link that just popped up. It's livingoffrentals.com/call, and we can talk through the program and talk through your goals and see if it's a good fit and aligns with your goals. All right, so diving right in, here is the deal that Michael, who's a part of my coaching program, is about to do. So Michael lives in California and he's doing this 100% remote, which is very doable. But we started working together a couple months ago and he wanted to create significant cash flow using this strategy. And so after he went through the initial steps, he identified Ketchikan, Alaska, which I actually had never heard of, as having a ton of potential for this strategy. And he was absolutely right. This property is going to be a super high cash flowing property. So you can see this property is right here. It overlooks the bay here, kind of a desirable but yet still affordable area. This is the area where cruise ships come into town and there's a lot of visitors that pass through, but the property itself isn't anything special, but it's 4 units, which is key to creating significant cash flow with this strategy. So as I said, Ketchikan is part of Alaska. You can see it's this peninsula part that kind of drops down here just north of Seattle in British Columbia. And so the next step that I always recommend when you're doing research on an area or trying to find a high cash flowing area is to just plug the town into AirDNA. So AirDNA is a tool that will tell you the data on any town that you search. And so you can plug in Ketchikan, Alaska, and you can see that there's a 57% average occupancy and a $225 average daily rate. And there's 81 active short-term rental listings. So not a ton of competition in this area, relatively, decent occupancy rate and average daily rate for a really affordable area. Obviously, there's areas that have higher occupancy and higher average daily rate, but if the purchase price is an average of $1 million, it can be difficult to make cash flow work. You can also scroll down then, and it tells you the average occupancy in different months of the year. So obviously in Alaska, where it gets very cold in the winter, summertime is going to be most desirable. And so that's when a lot of people are traveling and stopping through. So you can see kind of this is the peak season, then it kind of drops off in the winter time. So from there, from an analysis standpoint, what we do is we go over to Airbnb itself and just plug the actual address into Airbnb. So a lot of people search by town. What I recommend is actually putting the specific street address in Airbnb. And what happens is this little arrow, this yellow arrow here, pops up. And then it shows you all of the best short-term rentals around that property. So you can look at other high-performing short-term rentals and see, what do they like? What do they have that the guests love in their reviews? Because you can read through all of the reviews and see what people like about these different properties. And so that's exactly what I did. And you can see some of these higher performing properties, this one only has 6 reviews, so it's relatively new, but they're all 5 stars. And it's nothing really special. I mean, it's outdated a little bit and, it looks clean, but it's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, similar to what Michael will have. 2 of his are 2-bed, 1 bath. one's a one bed and one's a studio. So you can look at the different size properties and see what they rent for on a nightly basis. So this one's $300 a night for 4 nights. You can plug in peak season, you can plug in off season, and you can kind of see the differences. And then, like I said, scroll down to the reviews and see what people say about the different properties. Here's another one that's a 1 bedroom, 1 bath kind of studio setup here. And again, you can look at, when are the bookings on the calendar. If they have several bookings, you can know that their price point's probably pretty accurate around that time frame. So this one's $348 for 3 nights. And you can see, again, when the different reviews were left. Are there gaps in the calendars consistently across many comps to kind of demonstrate that there might be some slowdown in occupancy during that season? Or, are there like 5, 6 reviews in a month indicating that, there's going to be pretty high occupancy during that season? So this one's a great one. It's 36 reviews, 4.97 star rating. It's a 1 bed, 1 bath. And again, nothing overly updated. It's a decent property, but it shows you that you don't have to have like the top of the line everything in this specific market. In other markets, high-end vacation rental markets, you might have to have absolutely every amenity that exists, and everyone's trying to one-up each other. But that's the beautiful part about this strategy, is that you can buy pretty affordable properties. They don't have to be top of the line, and they still can perform really well and cash flow extremely well. So you could do that on all these different properties. There's lots of comps to go through and see how these properties are performing compared to the purchase price, the average purchase price in the area. So then from there, we take all that data and we plug it into this analyzer. And so you can see the purchase price that he's going to be buying this for is $450. The after repair value is $550 after he fixes it up a little bit. It doesn't need a whole lot. It's pretty turnkey, but it's going to update a few things. Annual property taxes $4,500, annual insurance $3,500. So he's going to put about $50,000 in the property between all 4 units. And then he's going to spend about $40,000 in furnishing costs. Now, when it comes to financing these properties, that's a huge question mark for a lot of people. A lot of people don't have a ton of money sitting around, or they don't understand how the financing works. So what he's doing to finance this, and this is something that pretty much anyone who's interested in buying a property like this could do. So there's these DSCR lenders, debt service coverage ratio lenders, that are out there. They're very plentiful these days. They like lending on short-term rentals, and they will give you 80% of the purchase price, as long as the property cash flows. And this one will definitely cash flow really well. So that means it's a $360,000 loan, which means his down payment's $90,000. A lot of people don't have $90,000 just sitting around. And so what you can do then is you can go to a private lender, and I talk through how this process works in my program, and you can say, hey, I've got this high cash flowing property. I can show you how much money it's going to make based on the comps that we just went through. So it's not like me making this up. Would you like to have a loan on this property that's going to pay you 8%, 10%, 12%? The percentage isn't actually that important because the property cash flow is so high. So in this case, he's going to be able to borrow $140,000 as a second loan on this property, as a private loan that's an interest-only payment on that $140,000. So that will cover his entire down payment and all of the repair costs. So all he's got to come up with is the furnishing costs to get this deal done. So most people can do something like that. Then when you look at the income and expense side of the equation. So again, he's got 4 units, and that's what makes this deal so key, because each unit isn't necessarily bringing in an insane amount of money per unit. Like if it was just a 1 unit by itself, it's nothing to write home about. But when you've got 4 of them, it's incredibly high. So unit 1, he's bringing $220 per night on average during the peak season. So that's 150 days. And as you saw, we just looked at a whole bunch of them that were around $300 a night, right? So we're being extremely conservative for these high season averages at $220 and $220 for the 2 bedrooms, $190 for the 1 bedroom, and $180 for the studio. Then in the low season, obviously, occupancy drops off, price points are much lower. There's a way that we supplement this sometimes with a midterm renter through the low season, which I talk about in the program. But let's just say he only gets a 40% occupancy for the entire low season. That's 215 days of the year. So 60% of the time, all 4 units are totally vacant. And if that's the case, and he's only making 120, 120, 110, and 110 on those, he's still going to bring in $635, a 56% occupancy on average between the high season and low season. So that means he'll gross $136,000 on this property before cleaning costs. Then you're going to charge cleaning costs to your guests, and so he's going to bring in $143,000 once all of these are rented out as short-term rentals, which is pretty incredible on a $450,000 property. So then you can look at how the expenses work, right? So the first mortgage, his 80% mortgage from a DSCR lender, is going to cost him $2,500 a month. Then that second mortgage is $933 a month. So he's borrowing $140,000 at 8%, and every month he's going to pay that private lender $933. Then he's got his insurance, monthly costs, taxes, cleaning, an estimate of utilities and Wi-Fi, lawn and snow removal. You've got to pay that as a short-term rental owner. Obviously, you wouldn't as a long-term rental, but that's something that you pay for. Consumables, you're going to provide toilet paper, paper towels, cleaning supplies, stuff like that. And then a healthy set-aside for maintenance on a monthly basis. I always recommend setting aside a chunk because you're not always going to have maintenance every month, but then you will have updates and maintenance here and there that come up. So it's nice to have a good cushion built in so that you can actually count on your net numbers here. So if you're bringing in $140,000, $143,000 on an annual basis, and it's costing you $81,000 in expenses, that means he's going to make $5,179 of net cash flow. That's the money that he actually can live off of. He can stick in his pocket. He can go on vacation. He can do whatever he wants with that money because he's already got a set aside for maintenance. He's already accounted for all the expenses. And look at this, cash on cash return. This is unbelievable. I mean, if you're used to long-term rentals, a lot of people target like a 10% cash on cash return today on a turnkey property is amazing. 135% almost doesn't seem real, but it's because, you know, he's borrowing that second loan to pay for the down payment and pay for the updates. And so he's only coming out of pocket about $40,000 on this property that's going to kick off $51.79. So for every dollar he invests, he's making 135% every single year just from the cash flow. And that doesn't count any of the appreciation that will happen over the years to come. So I'm just so pumped for Michael and for this deal because these types of deals are life-changing. Like you buy one long-term rental that kicks off a few $100 a month of net cash flow and it's like, yeah, that's nice. I mean, it's better than not having anything. But when you look at a deal like this and you buy one of these and it kicks off $51.79 of net cash flow on a monthly basis, that's life-changing just from one deal. And then you think about the fact that, well, I could probably do a few of these over the next year, couple of years, and think about what that does in your life. That replaces most people's 9-to-5 income and makes them financially free. And one of the coolest parts about this, like I mentioned, he lives in California, so he's going to do this fully remote. And I'd say about half the people that I work with in my coaching program do this fully remote. It's the exact same process, whether you're right down the street or you're across the country. As long as you have a few key team members, boots on the ground, which I talk you through how to hire those people, how to screen them, how to put checklists in place for their roles so that they can take care of everything boots on the ground without having to pay a really expensive property manager to take care of the property. You can do this directly with a relatively low lift. So again, if you're interested in working with me to invest in a property just like this one, you can set up a call with me at the link that just popped up and we can see if the program's a good fit for you.